What is going on, everybody? Schematically's here, back with another X-Plane 11 video, and today we're going to be doing a flight in IFR Cat 1 conditions from San Diego International up to LAX, much like we did for the first ever 737 video. We do have the 737-800 with the nice Southwest livery here, but it isn't just the default 737-8. This is actually the 737-800 Zibo mod, and if you're not familiar with the Zibo mod yet, it's essentially a free library that's been compiled to kind of flesh out some of the systems of the default 737-8 and really get everything working very nicely such that it's up to kind of a payware level. So I learned about the Zibo mod from Thomas Rasmussen. You're probably familiar with him if you're subscribed to me. If not, I'll leave a link down in the video description, and he kind of goes through how to install everything, but it's just that mod. There's a terrain radar, and then there's also a really nice audio pack that we're using, and we'll get to hear all of that in just a minute. But anyway, today we are starting from cold and dark, so I am going to be starting the airplane with a checklist, which I got for the PMDG in GX, so hopefully that's going to work here. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to start off by getting a good view of that overhead panel up here, just because I don't have my track IR on, because it's gonna hurt my head to keep looking up and down like that. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is go ahead and come up here to the battery, and we'll turn that on and cover it, and then standby power is going to go to auto, and we'll cover that as well. Next up, we're going to take the DC voltmeter selector to bat, and the AC is going to stay in standby power. And then we'll come down and disengage the master caution. Okay, next up, we want to check that hydraulic and fuel pumps, this is the hydraulic and this is the fuel down here, are all off, which they are. Interior lights as required, I think we're good. It's daytime. Cabin utility and IFE pass seat on. Next, we're going to go ahead and engage ground power. You can see we have that available here, so we'll just move this switch down. Okay, pitot covers are off. AC voltmeter selector can now go to ground power, just like that. And let's check. Yeah, we've got ground power, so that is good. Next up, we're going to go ahead and check that these emergency lights are armed, which they are, and we'll cover those. External lights, we're going to go position to steady, and then logo, wing, and wheel all on. Alright, seat belts and no smoking can go to auto. And now we want to check the recirculation fans. Those will both go to auto, and then we check the packs as well and the isolation valve, all already on auto. Alright, now we confirm that the autopilots are in fact off. They are. And we will check the speed brake as well, which is off. Alright. Next, I want to come up to the IRS, and we will go ahead and change the mode over to heading /STS, and then we will switch these both into a line, and we'll see this on DC come on initially. This timer says 001 up here for me, and both of these lights are aligning. The reason this is so short is because I actually changed some settings down in the FMC to get this shorter. If you leave it as the default, it'll take like 10 to 15 minutes to align the first time, which is kind of annoying. So I'll show you how to change that once we start doing stuff in the FMC. So we're going to go ahead and switch both of these to nav, and then we'll come down and get to work. As you can see, not the default FMC here, but rather the Zibo mod FMC version 3.05 Charlie with the AudioBird XP sound pack, which is really nice. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started here. We want to go to the position initial page, and we are at Kilo Sierra, Alpha November. Okay. And we will grab this GPS position and put it in so that the IRS can start to align, and as you can see, the IRS is already up. So let's see how I did that, made that so fast. You want to go to menu and then to extras, others, and then make sure that this is set to short, and then you go back and you'll save, and it'll make it shorter next time that you actually boot it up. So you may need to reload the airplane if you don't want to wait all that time initially. Okay, so position initial, gate, I don't know what gate we're at, we're not going to worry about that. Route, flying up again to Kilo Lima Alpha X-ray. Alright, no flight number, runway, we're going to be departing 27. I think we'll be landing west as well. Performance initial, go ahead and set all this stuff up. Reserves, we'll say 2 tons. Cost index of 50. And then we're cruising at flight level 120 today. We're not going to limit the engines. Flaps 5. For takeoff, CG 20%, so that's 5.4 units of stabilizer trim. We'll go ahead and set that. And that's good. Alright, and that's more or less everything on the FMC for right this second. So let's go ahead and get back kind of into our flows. Let me see, I gotta reset this view here. Probably be easier for me to just kind of figure out how to set it, huh? Like permanently. Alright, there we go. Alright, so back into our checklist flows here. Fuel pump forward number 1 is going to come on. We'll see that low pressure light go away. Next up, we are going to go ahead and start the APU so that we can get off the ground power. So we'll hold that to the start position for just a second. Release that. And you see this low oil pressure light come on. And then you'll see the EGT come up. And this light up here will come on that says APU gin off bus once everything is good to go. So we'll go external for just a minute. And listen to our APU starting up. Beautiful, beautiful airplane. I got the Southwest livery from xplane.org. Great website. If you're on Xplane 11, you should absolutely be using that site in some capacity. They've got a bunch of really good freeware stuff like the Zibo mod over that way. Alright, let's go back and check out. Nope. APU still not. Oh, okay. Speak of the devil. Alright, so now that the APU is online, we want to switch down both of these APU generator switches, and then we will come over to the APU and engine bleeds, and we will turn all of those on. The duct pressures are going to come up, and you can hear the air start to circulate now. Okay, next up, we want to switch the AC selector to APU gen. And make sure the parking brake is in fact set, which I'm fairly certain it is, and it is. Ground connections, we can go ahead and disconnect / remove those so that we are on our own internal power, so we'll turn that off. Master caution is not on. Alright, now we can go into the FMC and set everything up. First, let's check our altimeter. We're going to set this to 12,000 feet for cruise since we're not anticipating any altitude restrictions. Then we also want to check our altimeters, 29902, standard. Alright, everything's good there. So let's go back down into the FMC for just a minute. What I want to do here is set up our departure. We're just going to be departing, no SID, just the 27 straight climb out. Okay, next up, I'm going to get a route and flight plan. Now, when we're in here, we want to go direct seaward. We'll execute that, and then direct SLI will be arriving via the SLI transition. San Diego. And select the closest one, of course. Execute that. Should be a relatively short flight. Okay. So everything here should be set. Departure set, route checked, elevator trim is set, gangways removed, doors are closed. Gen bus transfer switch we want to verify covered, and it is. Fuel pumps can all come on, all usable. And hydraulics can all come on. Let's see where are those guys, right here. Alrighty. Now our anti-collision lights can come on. Packs should go to off for start. And we'll check that thrust is in fact idled, which it is. Alright, awesome. So now we are ready for pushback here, so I'm going to go ahead and request pushback. Alright, pushback coming. Oh, and he already moved up. Okay, so let's go ahead and release the parking brake. And what I will now do is get right on over here to the ignition selector, and we'll switch that to left, and then we will check ground and start number 1. Then we will switch the ignition selector over to 2, go to ground, and start number 2. We can hear those spool up.
Okay, safe travels.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reset the parking brake. All those set up, and these will both spring back into the auto position once the engines are started, and we will set those to continuous. Alright, so those are both set now. Alright, now we want to check our AC power. Okay, so we can now select both of these, and then we will come up to the AC power selector and switch that over to Gen 1, and just to verify, we do have power, everything looks right there. So we're now running off the engines themselves. Okay, next up, we can turn off the APU since we are now running off the engines, and that means that we can similarly turn off the APU bleed and turn the packs back on. Okay, and we hear that air circulating. Now we want to check to make sure that we have pitot heat engaged. Alright, probes are on, and I will also be running window heating. It's 70 degrees here, but it'll get a little bit colder as we go up, so we'll go ahead and have that on just in case. Alright, so everything should be good here. Now we want to go over and check to make sure the yaw damper is on. That light should go off. And we now have no warnings across the board. We are good to go, so we're actually ready for taxi at this point. Okay, so what I'll do now is I will set up my track IR. We'll go ahead and re-zero that guy. Alright, and let's get to taxiing. Alright, so we can actually go ahead and set up the autopilot at this point. So I'll go ahead and switch, whoops, VNav, oh, it's bizarre. Is the autopilot disengaged? Oh, we have to have the flight directors on, right? The auto throttle. Okay, now VNav and LNav can come on. Okay, we want to check that we are set to runway heading here, and then we'll set this to V2. Okay, that's set. So the autopilot should be more or less good to go at this point. want to go ahead and set flaps for takeoff. So flaps 5, that's 3 notches. And that's more or less going to cover it until we get to the holding point. To make sure that our taxi lights are on here. We may have forgotten to do that. Yep. Runway turnoff is also going to be on, and we need to check the TCAS. Make sure that that is in test. Alright, TCAS is set. So now we're just going to cruise right on down to the end of runway 27, hold short, and we will get everything set. So I figured this would be kind of a good showcase for just how much the 7.3 changes when you install this mod. And if you want to go back and look at the first 737 video that I posted, you'll see that I've also come a pretty long way as a pilot. I didn't really understand how most of the systems and stuff worked back then, but I think I've got a pretty good grasp now. You can see this traffic alert here since the TCAS is in test. Anyway, I hope you guys are having an absolutely phenomenal weekend. I know I have been. I've been out of the video game for, not the video game, but the YouTube game for quite a while now. Had a few life changes. I actually moved, had some work changes going on. So it's been a bit hectic, but I really appreciate that you guys are still sticking around, and I see that the channel has actually grown in my absence, which is just unbelievable, and I can't thank you guys enough for your support on that front. Really cool. Alright, we go ahead and set both course selectors to 2.7 as well. Whoops. Oh no! It's the curse of the track IR. Okay, I'm not going to bother with that one. It's going to take too long. Okay. Go ahead and start braking. And come to a complete stop. And we will set parking brake so we don't accidentally enter the active. And now we are at the holding point, so the landing lights can come on. We're not going to extend those since it's daytime. Taxi lights can come off. Position lights, strobe and steady are good. TCAS can go to TARA. Whoops. Track IR glitching out. Okay, that's a TARA. Go ahead and re-zero that guy. Transponder is in mode C. Okay, so everything is more or less good to go here. So we'll go ahead and enter the active and get underway. Listen to those sounds. Those engines sound absolutely great. Really, really cool. I gotta say, the flight sim community is really unique, just in in terms of the intelligence of the people who do this kind of thing and how like generous they are, because had I developed something like this, I probably would have charged for it, because it seems like it'd be a whole lot of work. I don't know, maybe that just makes me a jerk. Alright, let's go ahead and set the parking brake, and we will set, let's make sure everything's good on the autopilot first. Flight directors, auto throttle, everything's good. Okay. So we're going to take this off more or less just like we would the 767-300. Parking brake release. Go ahead and dial that back just a bit so we don't overheat the engines. Here's V1, gonna go ahead and rotate here. And we're airborne. Once we hit 500, gear comes up. Alright, retract 1 notch of flaps. Two notches of flaps. And we'll go ahead and retract this fully. And we can now go ahead and engage the autopilot. You can hear the autopilot flying the airplane through the trims there, so everything is more or less set up at this point. Alright, so now that we are in the climb phase, we can go ahead and set our auto brakes to off, which is where they are. Landing lights can come off. Runway turn-off lights as well. Wheel well lights off. And everything is good. So now we hang out until 30 miles from top of descent, which we're probably actually not that far from. It's going to be pretty busy since this flight is so short. And here we are. Really like the Southwest livery. I think it's my favorite for a 7.3. Although the KLM one does look quite nice as well. Looks like we've got some ILS activity going on here. Let's see. Both of these, I think they're already set. We'll check that as we get closer. But anyways, just in terms of kind of my plans, I'm hoping that now things have kind of settled in enough to where I'm going to be able to start uploading regularly again. So I do really appreciate your patience again. Hopefully I'll get to the point where I can do 2 or 3 a week. I can't make any promises right now just because I'm not too certain what my situation's going to be. But things are definitely are looking up in terms of just my workload, so should be good. Alright, we are passing through 10,000, so I expect to see the airplane accelerate a bit. There it goes. Oh man. So apart from flight simming, which I've continued to do, I have been playing a little bit of Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I actually really enjoyed Final Fantasy XII when it first came out. So I'm enjoying playing through that again. Okay. Now we want to go ahead and we'll set up our arrival at LAX. We'll be arriving ILS 24 left with the SLI transition. We'll execute that. Everything should be more or less good to go. Top of descent should be correct now. Yep. So top of descent right after seaward, as it turns out. So once we land, we'll go through the shutdown procedures, and that'll more or less be it. It really is pretty impressive that you can have something with this level of system depth for free in X-Plane 11, just with a little bit of work, and that's big props to the community, of course. Here she comes. Whoosh. It's cloudy, so we'll be using the ILS once we get in. Not sure what the cloud floor is. It's probably around 1,000 feet if I had to guess. I'm just using some default weather, so. We already have the ILS because I did this flight once before, just when I was trying to make sure I got all the startup procedures and everything right. Okay, so I would say, yeah, we're about 30 miles from top of descent, so we need to go ahead and start. Alright, so first thing we want to do here, set auto brakes, set those to max. Altitude we will set to sea level. That'll allow us to descend without accidentally engaging altitude hold. Okay, FMC arrival's good, route's good. ILS frequencies are set into nav1 and nav2 already, as you can see, right here and right here. So that's for 24 left. ILS course, go ahead and set. Just in case we were to lose the ILS for some reason. It's always good practice. Alright, landing lights can come on now. Guess you technically do that when you're passing back through 10,000, but that's okay. Runway turn-off lights as well. And spoilers to armed, which they are. Alright, so that is the before descent checklist completed. Very good. So we're more or less good to go until we are on the ground. So after seaward, got about probably 40 more miles to go, so this really is a pretty short flight, maybe 50. Fortunately, not a whole lot to look at. You guys are aware of any good free weather or scenery mods, do let me know about that, because I'm trying to find some. Just haven't taken too much time to do that yet, since I am just kind of starting to get into the whole modding thing. Also, if you know of any good ways to set up like really epic views just for kind of some B-roll, then tell me about that too, because that would be really cool. Right now I just kind of cycle the views manually, and if I could figure out some way to do that automatically, that would be awesome. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to top of descent here. Probably just about 10 miles away. So when we hit top of descent, I think what will happen is that we need to pull the throttle to idle to start descending. And the FMC should be commanding like something below 250 in terms of speed. We'll see what happens exactly. You can also do it through level change, but it's a little bit easier just to let the VNav descend for you. Hanging out above the coast of California. Good place to be, especially in the summer. Let's see what the FMC does to speed once we hit top of descent. Yeah, 275. Okay. I'm gonna reduce power to idle so I don't interfere with that. And we are beginning our descent. Just about 11 miles from SLI. Then the turn on to final happens at Julie, I think. It's about 20 miles from that turn. Once we get onto the localizer, I will switch us into probably level change or speed mode, just so we can begin to slow down. I don't know if the FMC will do that automatically or not. But I'm not going to try it here. Just a little too risky while I'm recording. So I also have acquired the Jar Designs A320 Neo, which is a great airplane in its own right. So I'll probably be doing a video on that pretty shortly as well. Just kind of a comparison between the 737 Zibo mod and the A320 might be kind of interesting. They are, of course, pretty different just in terms of the way that you handle the MCDU and the FMC, and the autopilots are a bit different. But there are a lot of similarities as well, of course. If you can fly one, you can certainly fly the other. Just a little bit of a learning curve. We are right on glide. Ahead and deploy spoilers for just a second. Slow down a bit more. Looks like we're... What are we looking at? Would that be the mountains out near Edwards? Probably. Let's check the map. No. Actually, it's not. I don't know what those are. There should not be any mountains there. That's weird. Okay. Now those mountains I would expect, because that's actually out in the vicinity of Edwards. Very strange. Strange things going on with the scenery. Okay, and we have the ILS already. So once we make this turn, I'll go ahead and arm the approach. And we will slow down. I think once it has glide slope, it should automatically kick us over into speed. Maybe. I think that's what the 7.6 does. I don't know about the 7.3. So I have about a 10-mile, 15-mile final. Okay. As we come around, I will arm that approach. Go ahead and hoist spoilers. So we are descending a bit more rapidly now. Pretty aggressive little descent rate. Probably a function of that cost index. Okay, let's arm the approach. And I will switch into speed. I will slow us down. Run down to 200 knots. And I have the field way out there in the distance, which is cool. Alright, let's go flaps 1. Flaps 2. Flaps 5. Flaps 10. Go ahead and suck in those spoilers, and we will go flaps to 25, and that will be our landing configuration. Let's go ahead and get the gear out. Now we'll watch that diamond on the ILS come down, and we should descend right down with it. There we go. And we have captured glide slope. Really, we've got the field already all the way out here. I'll let the ILS take us in more or less the rest of the way, and then we'll go ahead and disengage the autopilot and the auto throttles once we're closer. Let's take a look at our airplane and landing config. Beautiful. Just want to go ahead and verify auto brakes are engaged. Frame rate's a little bit on the low side. I'd like to see that get optimized more. It's probably the weather that's doing it. Everything's coming along. Let's go ahead and disengage the auto throttle. And we will disengage the autopilot, and we'll take it in by hand. Gorgeous.
100.
Alright, let's start that flare.
50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Alright, coming on down. And we will hit those brakes and engage that thrust reverser. Alright, reversers are off. Looks like we're going to miss this taxiway, have to go up to the next one. That is okay. Suck up those spoilers. Retract flaps. Alright. We will post up just for a second, make sure that I have everything set for the taxi. And normally one guy would be driving the airplane while the other was worrying about the checklists, I suppose. Alright. So now, transponder to standby. Flight directors can go off. In terms of lights, whoops. Taxi lights on, landing lights off, runway turn off lights off. Wheel well on. And that's it. Let's go ahead and taxi to the gate. Not sure where exactly we'll park at. We'll find us a spot. Maybe over by that Emirates jet. Okay. Flight directors are off, spoilers are off, flaps are retracted, auto brakes set to off. Come on. Taxi lights, good. Landing lights, good. Position lights, steady. Window heat can come off, and the APU should be started. Okay, now I want to look all the way up here, turn off those window lights, or window heating. We'll taxi right on over to the gate. And all that will be left is shutdown. So, relatively uneventful flight. Everything's gone pretty well, I would say. I don't think they're gonna have a jetway for us. That's alright. Okay, let's go ahead and set the parking brake. Parking brake is set. Now taxi lights can go off. Oh, that's the APU. Whoopsie. Don't want to do that. Taxi lights off. Parking brake is set. APU gen switches. One available. Just confirm that is in fact coming on. Shouldn't take very long. Okay. Really, that's kind of the limiting step right now. I guess we can go ahead and turn off the anti-collisions. The TCAS can go to standby. Okay. Generator buses are on. APU bleed can come back on. Now AC voltimeter selector is gonna go. Let me go ahead and do that track IR thing again, just so that we are not constantly straining my neck. It's quite sore. All the straining. Okay, up here, I'm gonna go to APU generator. Okay, and now we can go ahead and turn off the engines. They've done quite well for us today. Alright, master warning is not engaged. Wheel chocks, parking brake is set, ground power. We do not have ground power, so we will stay on the APU. Doors, we can say they're open, gangway is enabled. Seat belts and the smoking sign can go off at this point. Alright. Now the anti-collision lights they're already off. The TCAS goes to standby. Yaw damper can come off. So basically just doing everything we did at the beginning in kind of opposite order. Pitot heat off. Engine start switches both go to auto. Ignition for both. Hydraulic pumps can now go off at this point. Fuel pumps, we'll leave forward one on until we shut off the APU. External lights can all go off. And now the emergency lights can go off. Whoops. And now we want to go to the IRS selectors, and we will go ahead and turn those both off as well. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and switch over to standby power. we can shut down the APU. There we go. And the APU can go off. And we will go ahead and turn off his bleed and the other bleeds as well. And we can shut off that last fuel pump since we are on standby. Okay. Now packs are going to go off. And the isolation valve goes to close. Recirc fans go off. IFE and cabin utility both go off. Now the interior lights are already off. DC voltmeter goes to standby power. And standby power goes to off. And now the battery goes to off as well. Oop. Oh, it has to be uncovered, that's why. There we go. Okay, so that is it. We are back to a cold and dark state in our beautiful 737-8 with the Zibo mod. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video today. Really, I do, again, appreciate you guys sticking around in my absence, but I should be back now. So if you've enjoyed the video, drop a like, leave a comment, let me know if there's anything that I can do better in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.